So at some point, I quit worrying about what parts I was going to get, and I started thinking about what I could contribute to the history of film, what I could contribute to the entertainment industry, what I could contribute to all the people who look to us for escape, who look to us for healing, for salvation.
When Tarantino wrote a role specifically for you, what did that say to you about how far you'd come?
You know, when that part was written for me by Quentin, I dare you to take it from me.
Yes.
Come and try.
Yes.
You know, you can't beat me because I already have the part. In his mind, it's already cast before anybody else has seen for it. I'm the perfect idea in Quentin's head at that moment. You can't beat that. Ask Lady Gaga.
Hello and welcome to Ego is Here. Today I'm joined by Laura Cayouette, an amazing actress, writer, director, and mentor whose journey is a masterclass in craft, resilience, and creative passion. Hello, Laura.
Hello, thank you. What a nice introduction.
Thank you. You know, I'm so excited. As I told you before the interview, I have so many things to ask you. Take me back to that moment on the train when you heard
Oh,
the voice say, "You're supposed to be an actor." What did that moment felt?
you know, it's funny because I think a lot of us kind of know and don't know the moments that change everything.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was a voice I could not unhear. Would have been convenient to pretend I had not heard it. Would
Yes.
have been easy to just go on with my life as I had planned it. You know, I had a good plan, and my plan was workable, feasible. I had done the things you need to do to get my plan. You know, like that was a smart plan. And I
And you
was
were
backing it
already
up.
married, right?
Yes, I was married and I was teaching college. I taught college English and I was running a dress boutique. And, you know, everything made sense in my mind. I was going to get my doctorate. I had already gotten my master's and I was getting started on my doctorate and I was going to teach college English. That was my plan. And on the summers, I was going to write. You know, one of the benefits of being a professor is that you have to publish or perish. And so it was going to force me to write during my hiatus time. But life is what happens while you're making other plans. Um, so yeah, at the moment that I heard it, I understood I was hearing something I would not unhear,
Mm.
but I also couldn't possibly conceive of what it meant because I didn't know anything about the entertainment industry
It
at
hadn't
all.
crossed your mind before? Never.
No, I'd done talent shows in elementary school and I had done a play my senior year. I did Godspell, but not with my school. My school never I just never was a theater kid. I just never was. And um so I just didn't, I don't know, it just didn't go through my mind. I had no plans for for how do you start a life in the entertainment industry because I didn't want to be in the entertainment industry. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to do these things that seemed safe and plannable and controllable and achievable and, you know, that
Mm.
made a lot of sense to me. But um you know, my husband has never seen anything ghostly. He's never seen anything that isn't just right there, concrete in front of you.
Mhm.
And I remind him how convenient that is for him. Because for those of us who have seen something we can't explain, we can't unsee it. Wouldn't it be great if we could just unsee it and be
Yeah.
like, you're right, that's crazy. Nobody, that doesn't exist. But, you know, like I've never seen a unicorn, but if I did, I would have a hard time going with the there are no unicorns theory, you know, because I just
Sure.
saw one.
course.
So, yeah, so the voice was like that moment for me when I remember very clearly the words, "You're supposed to be an actor." I mean, that's a directive. "You're supposed to be" sort of indicates that I was messing up and off my path. And I don't, I am not a big Bible beater, but the Bible does speak on this. And what it says is that God only talks to the ones that are too dumb to figure it out on their own. So I don't know if I was just on the wrong path. I have no idea how life works. I have no idea what that voice was. I've had now decades to think about it. I have no answers. All I know is that I'm supposed to be an actor. And so I did that. And I'm still doing it.
Yes. So you spend years training before even trying to book a job.
Well, because I had no idea what that even meant. What does that even mean? And this was at the time where there was no internet yet. And so if you wanted to learn something, you had to go to the library and check out books. And so I did. I went to the library and I checked out all these books and I read everything. And, back then the publishing industry is just for the people who can get through the publishing industry. So it's a limited amount of books. And all of them are sort of by people who have gone through the sanitization of publishing.
Hmm.
And so there was not very much information. And that which I found, everything said less than 1% of people that try and do this will make enough money to live. And I just kept thinking, but I had this good job, like I have this money
I
coming
could
in.
have
I have,
asked myself.
like, and I have a master's degree that's not in this. Like, what am I doing? But I just made it my mission instead of figuring out how to like get an agent or what, all the stuff that you might spend your energy on. I just spent all of my energy on figuring out how to become a one percenter. And what I figured out from the books was that I was going to have to beat people who had been doing this for as long as I had been breathing.
Hmm.
I was in the same category as people like Jodie Foster and, you know, Helen Hunt, and like it was a very thick field. And the newcomers when I was coming in were Renee Zellweger, Charlize Theron. Like the people I was competing with were top of the line. Angelina Jolie was going in at the same time as that. Kate Blanchett beat me for like 3 roles in 1 year. Like the people I was competing with were, you know, the best of our best.
Yes.
And so
And some of
the
them
only
child
way
act-
I could compete, I'm sorry?
and some of them were child actors. Like they started very young.
Many of them, like
Yeah.
Jodie Foster acted since
Mhm.
she was in diapers. Helen Hunt, same thing, acted since she was in diapers. So, yeah, they had fold out resumes and I was just somebody. Nobody. So the first thing I set about doing was becoming great. I wanted to compete with the best so that I could be the best. And I knew they had all been working way longer than I could. And I couldn't get on the job training the way they were. So I thought, well, then let me get the best training we have in America, which, was the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. It's the oldest school for acting in the whole wide world.
And was there a moment for you that you said, okay, now I'm ready. I feel ready. I feel
You know what actors do all the time? They think they're ready.
question. They question themselves.
Yeah. No, I thought I was ready a billion times that I now, of course, can reflect upon and go, no, 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 you were not ready. And I am grateful that I didn't do all my learning on the job because they record what we do on our job and film is forever. And so everything you learn on film, people get to watch your learning curve forever. So I'm grateful that I had a lot of training coming into this. I also don't think I would have been competitive without all the training.
Yes, yes. Laura, tell me, because you say that Richard Dreyfuss is your mentor, and tell me when he told you, make it so they can't sleep at night. Does that phrase mean to you?
Well, I
What
had
it should mean for all the actors?
well, it's such a powerful statement, and I've said it to so many other people now. Um, but I remember when he first said it to me, I wasn't sure what to do with that? It's kind of higher level learning. It's, like, how am I supposed to make it so they don't sleep at night thinking of ways to put me in their movie? How do you do that? I understand intellectually what I'm supposed to accomplish, but like, how?
How do you do it
How?
practically without
Right. So,
exaggerating or overacting?
right.
'Cause
Without
yes.
being, without what I call standing out without sticking out.
Mhm.
How do you make them trust you that you've got this, that you understand the mission and that you're on it? And so the answer is preparation. Preparation is the answer. But a lot of people get confused when I say that, and they think that that means just doing the same thing over and over,
Again,
like
yes.
rehearsing. Rehearsing is a little different than preparing. Um,
Tell me the difference.
well, rehearsing, I think, is repetition.
Reading
Yeah,
the lines
rehearsing
the
is.
same way. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and there are many ways to rehearse that'll keep something fresh that is not repetitive, but there are also ways to rehearse where it is actually entirely based on repetition, where we have things like the repetition exercise. Um, but for me, preparing for a scene is more about breaking it down. It's more about taking the scene apart and figuring out how it works. Um, there are people who like to take apart a toaster and see how, how does it make the toast.
Yes.
I am always trying to do that with my scene work. I'm always looking at the scene and digging into it and tearing it apart to see inside of it and figure out how it's working from the point of view of the writer, from the point of view of the audience, from the, like, you have to know if you're the comic relief. You have to know if you're the, like, if you're the comic relief, then you need to be heading for that bump bump moment, or the audience will be disappointed, or you'll get cut, because you didn't deliver.
Yes.
If you're the heart jerker, the tear jerker moment, then you better be vulnerable. You better dig in. You better find a way to be naked on camera so that people can feel for you. And that doesn't, necessarily mean crying. Let the audience cry. Like, being vulnerable isn't necessarily about exhibiting feelings or pumping something up from our past
Mhm.
that people can relate to. It's about understanding why you're talking at all. Why is your character talking at all?
That that's so real. Yes, yes. Because in our lives, there's a reason we talk every single time. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so I try and come at my scenes from that point of view of,
Mhm.
like, why am I, and there's always clues, like some of the things that upset other actors I love, like whenever you see the same line repeated like 3 times, like, "I told you go away. I told you go away. Go away." Like, I see something like that, I'm like, "Ooh, I'm gonna kill this scene." Somebody else sees that and they're like, "How am I supposed to say go away 3 different
Yes,
ways?"
yes.
And to me, I'm like, "Oh, this scene's really about something now," because why would you say something 3 times?
Thanks.
And there's gonna be 3 different reasons. So, that to me is the exciting stuff, is figuring out how and why the scene works.
Laura, do you think actors find truth in characters or characters help actors find truth in themselves?
I think it's a wheel. I think it's a wheel. I think that's a great question because it encompasses all the things that we can give and all the things we can get by, um, exploring characters. I think the coolest thing about being an actor is that it's very similar to the journey that the Dalai Lama takes. When they discover the Dalai Lama, incarnated, they train him by having him walk a mile in a million shoes so that he can develop compassion. And that's what actors do for money,
Mm.
is we walk a mile in a million shoes. And how can you not develop empathy and compassion for the human condition in its entirety when that's what you spend your days doing?
Of course. Have you ever played a character that taught you something about yourself that you weren't aware of?
I guess they all come with something, even if it's not from the inside, one of the things that I have taken great joy in my career was finding out that I am my own stunt double. I didn't know that going in. I didn't think I'm going to do all my own stunts. But um and I kind of took it for granted. I kind of took it for granted that that was sort of one of my gifts, that I could do my own stunts. And then recently I've had some health issues and I haven't been able to do my own stunts, and it made me realize, oh, that was something that acting gave me that I didn't even know I was signing up for, um, that I was able to give acting, but, that it was a part of my identity, was that I felt sort of macho. I felt sort of like a badass,
Yes,
that I
yes, yes,
could, yeah, do
yes.
my own stunts.
Hmm.
If you do your own stunt, then it's gonna look great when they cut it together. If you can only do a portion of your stunt, it's still gonna end up looking pretty great in the edit bay. If you can't do any of the stunt, you're gonna have somebody's back of head. You're gonna, like they're gonna, you're gonna see that it's not you as they turn their head, and it's that whole fakey thing. And now I guess we'll be able to fix it with AI, but um, that always mattered to me, of what it looks like at the end, and that be able to trick the viewer and put them in the fantasy of what's happening. And the best way to trick the viewer is to really do it.
Of course. Laura, tell me about your book, No Small Parts.
Well, I wrote the book I was looking for, because I told you, when I started, I was a library kid. I was out there getting books. And so I read all the books. I read all the books. And I never found the one I was looking for. I kept trying to find a book that was going to show me, how do you do all this? How? Because all the things I read, there were a couple that were valuable. I think Michael Shurtleff's Audition was very valuable. I'm sure it's outdated by now, but I found that very valuable. There were some that I found really helpful. Um, but when it came to practical advice of, like, when do you get an agent?
Hmm.
Do you move to LA? When do you join the union? How do you get a free dress for the red carpet? Um, what do you do when you get to set? Who do you even report to? Like, all that stuff. Do you put your costume on or not? Like, all that stuff, all of the stuff that, every time we work, it's like being the new kid in school all over again. And I was the new kid in school a few times, and I have sensitivity to that. And so I wanted to write a book that would make it so that the new kid in school wouldn't feel like that anymore.
Yeah, because there are so many things, and it's overwhelming for somebody that doesn't really know, doesn't have the experience.
Yeah, you arrive and there's literally hundreds of people. You have no idea where you're supposed to go, who you're supposed to talk to, what's supposed to happen next. You just know that you were summoned. You were summoned to this place to come and pretend to be some other person.
Yes.
And that's it. And then it's all, you arrive and it's like the circus, and you don't know who the ringleader is, or even if that's who you're supposed to talk to. It's just, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And so I wanted something that made it doable.
Do, now, as a coach, as an acting coach, do you see coaching as purely technical or also emotional and psychological support?
I see it as whatever the client needs most, because I have some clients who really are not looking for a lot of emotional support. They want technical, you know, let's get this. And especially the ones who are doing that, they're getting coaching for a specific audition or for a specific job, or, something where they already have the script, they already know what it is they're trying to work on. Those clients in particular, that's very specific work that they want done. And then I have other clients that I work with, like, in particular, the clients that I work with every week, we go on big journeys, because if I know you every week, then I, you don't even have to tell me when you're having a day. I
Mm.
can tell you, oh, you seem like you're having a day. What's going on? So, um, if that's something that they don't want to work on, then I'm not a therapist, I
Yeah,
have no desire.
yeah,
I
of
don't get
course.
my kicks off of that. But, but if they're I mean, I've definitely gotten engaged in, um, coaching that bordered into life coaching, because I am a resource for people, a mentor for people, and just like any mentor, there's going to be things I say that apply to life, not just acting or not just your career or writing or filmmaker or whatever I'm coaching you on. Yeah, there's going to be things that affect your life one way or the other, and then there are things you're bringing from your life into your work. I have several times in my there's an unusual amount of times in my career, I have run into people who were being reunited with their birth parents, and that's a big moment for somebody to
That's a
be
very
reunited with their birth parents, and um, I'm not sure why that those people felt like I might have some help for them, but I have been able to help some people walk through those milestones in their life. And whether that's like coming out to your parents or whether, whatever is the thing,
yes.
that's certainly not my area. I am all about, you know,
Acting
y-
and yeah.
yeah, but it is the thing that we're using as actors, our instrument is ourself. If your violin were out of tune, and I were your coach, it would be weird of me not to point out that your violin is out of tune and here's a way to fix that.
Mhm.
So, as a coach, if I see that your instrument is out of tune, I might be able to help you fix that.
And what's the most common mental block you see in actors? And how do you
I
address it?
it's not even in actors. The most common block that I see altogether is people block themselves. They say
Right.
out loud something that is not even remotely true and then live to it. So, like, like Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh, that stuff of like protecting yourself from getting hurt by knowing in advance that it's going to go wrong.
Mm.
You know, well, you don't know. You don't know. It could go brilliantly. It could go terribly, and you don't know. That's why you're going to do it.
Yes, because we judge from our previous experiences sometimes or our beliefs, you know.
But that's like making somebody else pay the tab for your meal. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
or me having to pay the tab for the person before's me meal. I'm just going to pay my own tab. You pay your tab. Let's everybody keep their
Yes.
selves separate. So if I am holding the future responsible by keeping hostage with the past, then I'm doing that thing of saying, well, I'm going to let this person who didn't pay their bill dictate to me whether or not I pay bills or whether other people pay bills or whether I
Right.
trust that people pay bills or whether bills get paid. No, that was just one person one time did that one thing. And maybe it'll happen again, but
Yes.
you're not likely to get out of life's hardships by outsmarting them.
Mm.
Like people die and it hurts and you're not going to be smarter than that. You're just going to have to be in pain. People leave and it hurts. And you're not going to be smarter than that. You're just going to have to feel what it feels like to be rejected. These things hurt and you just have to go through it.
So tell me, Laura, how were you able to make it in the industry with all that competition? When you started, like, what was it like when you were starting?
It was so different when I started now. I can't believe I'm now old enough to be like back in the old days. But, there's a before and after, and the before and after is COVID. Um, Before COVID, which wasn't that very long ago. So it's
No.
not about
Mm.
back in the old days. It's just that if you were in the industry before COVID, you had a different experience than you do now
Mm.
because up until COVID, everything was in person. This was very much a people organization, a people industry. It was all about who you know and what velvet rope you could get behind and all that. I mean, it was all about that. And now it's like, do you have enough Instagram followers or do you like you could be stuck in a
Yeah.
basement. and be more popular than somebody who went to all the parties, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so there's good and bad to that. Um, it's very interesting to me to see what that has done. And think what I like that it's done is that I can audition, from my living room in New Orleans for a project in Bangkok. I can, like I can be anywhere at any time the
Yes.
same way we're being
Yeah.
together right now. Um, but we're never really together. I can't hug you,
Mm.
you know?
Yes.
And that thing of gathering in the rooms, waiting to go in on the audition, I don't know if people just coming into the industry even know what they've lost by losing that, because it used to be that you'd walk into a room and first of all, the minute you walked in, especially if it was like for a commercial or whatever, you would then meet all of your competition. You would meet every person that looked like you,
Mhm.
every person in your age range, every person that was going to be paired with you as a husband or a sister, or, you would meet all of your people who you're going to do the whole journey with.
Mhm.
You'd meet them in the waiting rooms. And so that camaraderie that we had, that sense of community that, you know, the union was frankly built on, we don't have that anymore. That thing of knowing all your competition, knowing all the men that you're going to be paired with as a woman, or all the women you're going to be paired with as a woman, or all the children you're going to be paired with, and all that, knowing all that is gone. Meeting the casting directors and being able to impress the casting directors whether you did a good job at the audition or not. I used to be able to botch, and I mean botch, an audition and book the part. And I would be able to do that because of how I reacted to botching the audition, the way I would handle botching the audition. Did I turn that into a moment of fun and levity for everybody? Did I turn that into a moment of professionalism and buckle down and get it? Like, if I say, let me start again, you will see the difference? Or am I just, wasting your time? And so that thing of being directed by the casting director and having them have an experience of whether you're good with direction, whether you're good on set, all that's all gone. Having the casting director or the producers or the director or anybody being in the room with you and seeing that, okay, she botched the audition, but she's definitely the character, or all those things, all that's just,
Yes. Yes.
yeah. And it's tearing at our sense of unity as a group of artists, as a group of creators, as a group of technicians, a group, a trade organization. We are losing each other's strength.
Yes.
Yeah.
In your experience, what separates actors who last from actors who burn out and disappear?
Well, the easy answer is quitting. the
Quit.
only, yeah, the only big difference between actors who are working and actors who are not working is the actors who are not working quit. Because the actors who didn't quit and are not working could still work tomorrow. So quitting is the only sure way to not be working. And even that's not sure, because, there are people who quit and then we just pull them right back in. Um, I have quit a couple times, I guess, in a
Not
way. I have
specific.
never really quit, but I have definitely been like, have I been retired and nobody told me? Um, yeah, like during COVID, I wasn't sure whether anybody would ever work again. I had no idea what was going to happen. I was like, did we all just quit and didn't know it? But I think I think there's the love, you know, most of us who do this love it. And if you quit loving it, then you should probably quit, because it's a terrible job.
Yes.
It's a
In
great
ways,
career, but it's
yes,
a
in
terrible
ways,
job.
especially in Hollywood. I mean, the competition is, I don't know, I just
I
want.
never worried about all that. I never worried about competition. I really didn't. Even though I earlier said about all those women that I started out with, I couldn't pay attention to them. I really just had to focus up because I was so far behind them that I knew that I was going to have to carve out my own space. I was going to have to make myself employable. I was going to have to make myself into something that wasn't already there, that the industry needed. And so at some point, I quit worrying about what parts I was going to get, and I started thinking about what I could contribute to the history of film, what I could contribute to the entertainment industry, what I could contribute to all the people who look to us for escape, who look to us for healing, for salvation, for, all the people that come to entertainment to feel better for even one moment, to feel smarter, to feel more traveled, to feel more loved, to feel more seen, to feel whatever they feel. What could I do for them? What could I do for that? And when I saw the industry that way, instead of seeing what can I achieve, what can I get out of this, how can I cash in on this? When I started to see it more from the point of view of what can I create, what can I make, what can I leave, what what mark can I make? That changes which parts you're gonna take. It changes how seriously you take yourself, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
Um, I think you should never take yourself very seriously, but at the
Yeah.
same time, you're not gonna get anywhere if you're not a serious person about career stuff. We're trying to be like, we're trying to be in something that it's like being in the NBA. You can't just go, "Oh, I really wanna be in the NBA." Okay, well, good for you. That doesn't mean anything.
If you don't
A
train.
million people wanna be in the NBA. You
Yes.
have to be better than all of them. You have to be seen. You have to compete. You have to beat them. You have to all this stuff. And you have to do all of it without ever getting confused about why you're doing all of it.
Yes. And if you don't love it so much, yeah, you cannot go through those huge ups and downs. Because whenever I talk with other actors, they all tell me the same thing about those periods of time when you don't know when your next job is coming, you know?
Yeah, and I never had that until COVID. I've been very spoiled. I never had that moment, that feeling until COVID, and it was sort of shocking to be out of work and have really no idea when it was gonna end or
Yes.
how.
Nobody did. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And I wasn't sure when it ended whether I would still be part of the industry because, I'm an aging woman. And just like if you had a strike in the NBA, there'd be certain basketball players who would age out while that's being decided. We were COVID and then three
Oh,
strikes and then the fire, like it's
yes.
been a while. It's been a lot. And so I wasn't sure if I'd be ever working again and I'd never had that feeling. I'd never had that feeling of like, will there ever be work? But yeah, during COVID, I got concerned of like I said, did I retire and nobody told me?
No, it's fine.
Did I miss a memo?
Laura, tell me, when Tarantino wrote a role specifically for you, what did that say to you about how far you'd come?
I didn't think of it that way. Um, I I think I took it much more personally at the time. I thought of how loyal he is, Quentin, and how privileged all of us who get to work with him
Mm,
time and again are. Um, People ask me what's different about working with him, and there's a list, but one of the things that's totally different is that I can't think of another filmmaker where if you show up, you're guaranteed to be part of something probably great and
yes.
maybe even historically important. and studied at universities and collected and, like, it I can't think of another filmmaker who could guarantee that. Like, Orson Welles couldn't guarantee that. Alfred Hitchcock couldn't guarantee that. He might be the closest, but I just can't think of anybody who could guarantee that you would be in a movie that wasn't just great, but might be historically significant. I mean,
Can
what a thing.
any story with Quentin?
I have so many. You'd have to narrow it down. I have so many stories, but I will tell you that I just did 2 movies in a back to back, and one of the things that movie making is so grueling. It's just so grueling. It can take so much out of you.
Mm.
And Quentin is aware of that. And he has this trick that he does that whenever he's pushed us too far, asked too much from us, made it too hard, he'll say, "Okay, we're going to do another take." Why? And everybody has to stop what they're doing and say, "Because we love making movies." And by the time like, when you first start saying it, you might be in a funk, like, "Because we love making but by the time you finish that, it's just a few words, but by the time you finish it, you remember, I could be working at McDonald's with a plastic name tag,
Yes, yes.
you know? Like, I do love making movies. I do wanna be here. This is my privilege.
Yeah, it reminds you of the most simple thing, the reason why you chose this job.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in
Consider
my case, it sorta chose me, but yeah,
Yes,
that
yes,
that
yes.
that thing of wanting to give back that which I have so benefited from, because as a young person and all through my life, movies have always been there for me.
Uh-huh.
TV's been there for me, music has been there for me. I thank God for the entertainment industry. I have no idea who I'd be without it. I don't know that I would have survived, because there have been times that life got too much where
Yes,
something as simple as a song or a TV show or a commercial or a
yes.
movie or just a quote from one of those things, just a quote, a book, all those things, they can save us.
Yeah. Laura, you've worked with some powerful visionary creators. What do all these people have in common?
Besides me.
Besides you, yes.
Um, um, I would say that most of the people that I have, um, worked with or been friends with or know well enough to answer that for, um, have been interested in excellence.
Mhm.
Um, they're not just doing something to do it. They're doing something that they want to be truly great at. Again, that thing of contributing. They want to be part of history. They want to be part of the larger story of us as a culture,
Yes.
a species,
Uh-huh.
they want to be part of that. So whether it's I have a friend who invented Microsoft. He's no longer with us, but that is a world-changing thing when you do that.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I have friends who, I have a friend who invented the fuzzy logic chip. Like, I have friends who have done all sorts of really interesting, amazing things, not just in the entertainment industry, although they do sort of all benefit the entertainment industry. But the thing they have in common, whether they were, you know, starting up Earthlink or whether is that they had the audacity to believe that it could be them
Mhm.
that did it.
Yes.
Yeah, and it didn't really matter how crazy their dream was or sounded or what they had the audacity to believe that they could be the one to solve the problem, or they could be the one to contribute that gift, or they could be the one called upon in that moment.
As you were talking about friends, I'm wondering, were you able to make lasting friendships inside the industry? Because we all think that it's so competitive out there. It's hard to make friends. It's hard to make lasting friendships.
Well, because that's if you think of it as a competition, but I will tell you, back when we had those rooms full of people that I was competing with, all the people that are my type, that I walk into a room full of me, um, I didn't see it that and most of us didn't see it that way. Most of us didn't see it as like, "Ooh, it's either me or you." We all knew that there were hundreds of people coming in and it was me or you or you or you or you or you or you
Yes.
or you.
Yes.
And so you and I don't have beef because it's not me or you. And even if you're down to a callback and it really is just me or you, it's either your part or it's my part. Like I'm not going to be able to knife you and get it, Like it's
Of
either your
course.
part or it's my part. And I'm not going to sabotage you out of your part and then get it as my own. That's not that's not how any of it worked in my mind. It's
Yes.
not how any of it worked for me. So I never saw it that way. And I actually used those rooms to gather a group of women together that I called the support hose. And the support host was a group of women in the industry who we would meet once a week. We'd meet on Mondays and we would go through our goals and check in with where we were with last week's goals. And it was really it was a supportive group of women who in the industry who, you know, were going through some of the same issues, dealing with some of the same problems.
Mm,
That was, for one thing, it was the first place where we could gather as a group and talk about Me Too stuff.
of course.
Um, was the first place that somebody asked me to help them reunite with their birth parents. It was like that. It wasn't just about the industry, but it really was a great place for us to support each other, even though our goals are to beat each other. Oh, I want to get that role that she's up for. Oh, I want to get that role she's up for. But we didn't see it that way. We saw it as you're going to get your roles. I'm going to get my roles. And sure, there are people who are gonna get all the roles, but that you knew that when you got there, You knew that when you knew that before you walked in the room. You knew there was always gonna be bigger names, there was always gonna be people with better agents, there was always
Hmm.
that's part of the gig.
Yes. Yes. It's disappointing, but it's something that you always know that. Yes. Yes.
Well, and it benefits me too because people are always like, "Oh, you didn't deserve that," or "Oh, you deserved that." Okay. I'm so glad things don't work on what we deserve because I have gotten things I didn't deserve and that has been good and bad. I have
Mm,
gotten things I didn't deserve where the sky just crapped on my head and I'm like, "I definitely did not deserve that." And I've had moments where the skies just opened and rainbows appeared and I didn't deserve that either. It just happened. So, I'm glad that things are not about deserving.
mm.
But, you are gonna earn some of those parts, and some of those parts you're just gonna be given, and that's just the way it is. When that part was written for me by Quentin, I dare you to take it from me. Come
Yes.
and try, you
Yes.
know? Whatever you're dishing, you can't beat me because I already have the part. In his mind, it's already cast before anybody else has seen for it. So you have to beat it's like when somebody becomes a widow and they have this perfect idea in their head of how it's gonna be. I'm the perfect idea in Quentin's head at that moment. You
Mm.
can't beat that. Ask Lady Gaga. So so, always saw it that way of that those of us who are going through this industry together need each other and we need support. And so I don't know, I didn't see the waiting rooms as like Shark Tanks. I saw it as here's my people. Here's all the versions of
Here's
me.
my tribe. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. My
Yes.
tribe, exactly. All the versions of me, all the this age to that age, this color to that color, this height to that height, are all in that room and we
Yes.
all have that in common. Why would I use that as an opportunity to tear at each other when I could be using that as an opportunity to say, I have this group called Support Host. We can meet on Mondays if you want to come, So
Yes. Of course. Of
so
course.
yeah.
Laura, I heard you in one of your interviews. You said that at some point the studios didn't see your name as valuable. Like, can you tell me about that?
I think it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have. It means that I am competing with names, movie stars, and falling short on name recognition. So, I fall short on name recognition for a number of reasons, some of which
Yep.
are things I've chosen.
Yep.
I
Understand that,
Yeah.
and I mean, most people, I'm sure that they will be questioning the reasons, but
People who wanna be famous don't have any friends who are famous. I have a lot of friends who are famous, and I think for me and maybe there are people who have famous friends and are dying to be famous, but I just am like, "Really?" Because once you see what it is, intimately see what it is, there are things I am willing to be famous for. Like, if I came up with the cure for cancer, I am more than willing to be famous for that.
Mhm,
But I wouldn't wanna be famous for who I date. I wouldn't wanna be famous for one role. I wouldn't wanna be famous for a commercial product that I endorse. I wouldn't want you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that I wouldn't wanna be famous for. I
mhm.
wouldn't wanna be famous for hurting anybody or for being out of sorts, on some substance or not being reliable to people or, I would never want to be famous for all those things. And the best way to make sure you're not famous for all the negative stuff is just don't be famous.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So so I have chosen this battle. I have chosen the battle of that the studios are never going to pick me because I don't have a big enough name. And that's okay because filmmakers love working with me. And so when the studio's in charge, I lose the part. But when the filmmaker's in charge,
You get the
I
point.
get to work.
Yes. At some point, you mentioned Leonardo DiCaprio, and you said that he's a natural talent. You know, having worked with him so closely, what do you think makes his performance so captivating?
Oh gosh, if I knew I would just copy it.
What is it
He's
about?
gifted. He's gifted. He's gifted in many, many ways, not just as an actor. Um, but he's gifted. And he does not stand in the way of his gifts. Earlier I said that people are their own worst enemy. I always see that the biggest obstacle people have is themselves. He is not doing that. He is embracing how messy acting is, how alive it is, how imperfect it is, how unknowable it is. I mean, he's just in the flow of it. He is an actor. Like, that is his destiny.
So, if I were to ask you, what do you believe that makes an actor considered talented? What would you say? Like, what would be the first three things that would come in your mind?
I think all of us like to be tricked into thinking what we're watching is real. So Leo is very gifted at tricking us. Um, when I saw What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which was his second film, I knew he was going to be nominated for an Academy Award. He was 19, I think, at the time, and he was indeed nominated for his second movie. And I think he should have won. And it didn't surprise me a bit that he was nominated, and then to watch his career blossom after that, he just he has this fearlessness. I guess in part, if your second part you ever do is this thing that's so different from you and everybody has no choice but to agree you're a genius, you know, then maybe you feel the sky's the limit. But yeah, I think again we're back to that pursuit of excellence. I think he's different because he wants to be different. He's different because he invests, um, more than most people. He cares more than most people. He works harder than most people.
So it's like more about practicing, taking risks, trying things, being open to.
It's the same thing I learned watching Shirley MacLaine, which is in the introduction of my book. When I watched Shirley MacLaine,
Oh,
the
you have
first movie I was ever
that
in,
story with Shirley.
yeah, the thing I learned from her was the biggest thing I learned was that she gave herself permission. She gave herself permission to own that scene, to own that character, to just fully go there. And I think a lot of us get worried about I just saw something I shot in August, um, and it turned out great. It's really good work. I'm really impressed with. There's only 3 actors, and I think all of us did a really bang up job. But I have to be somebody's mother, and the somebody is somebody who is already a grown person with gray at their temples, and I have to be their mother. And so as I'm watching it, there's the vain part of me. I literally just watched it before I spoke to you. And there's the vain part of me that's like, "Oh my god, do I look that old? Oh my god, look at all the wrinkles. Oh my god," all that vanity stuff.
Mhm, mhm.
And then I remember, I don't have to look old. I don't have to be wrinkled. That lady looks old. That lady looks wrinkled, but she's not me. So,
Yes,
yes, I'm playing her, but I'm not her. And so whatever I think of her isn't what I think of me anyway. So I don't know. This is a very strange job.
yeah. I don't think it's vanity. I think it's deeply human.
Yeah.
Having those thoughts, because actors get very exposed.
Mhm.
So I think it's deeply human to feel that way or to think that way.
But I want to share that because as I'm watching it, I am convincing as a grown woman. I am convincing as a woman who would have this son. That's the job. The job is not to look youngest. That's not the job. The job is not to be the prettiest or the thinnest or any of that. The job is to convince total strangers that I am this person feeling these things. And when I watched that scene just now, that lady convinced me that she's an older woman with a son that age. So all the ego stuff is noise. I did a good job.
Of course, of
We
course,
all did. We all did a good job.
and
And
congratulations.
yeah, and so I don't need to get in my feelings about how I feel looking at myself and all the wrinkles, wrinkles, bad lighting, whatever, because it's not about that.
When it comes to our ego, and especially for actors, do you think that we need to put our ego aside when we have to step into somebody else's shoes? And is that easy most of the times?
The way I say it is the way I say it is that um, I try not to give my ego the mic.
Oh,
It's there. It's got its opinions, but I try and grab the mic from my ego and hang
yes.
on to the mic. Yeah,
Yes.
because the ego might say something really stupid. Yeah, the ego is gonna serve itself. So the ego is likely to say something egotistical, something egocentric, something about the self and how the self is processing. But the ego is not me. The ego is just the voice,
The voice.
but
Yes.
that's not me. So I don't have to empower it. So that's why I say I try not to give it the mic. I let it have its say, but I try not to give it the mic.
Laura, if somebody watched your journey from the very beginning till now, what do you hope they would take away from it?
Wow, what a great question. I can tell I'm getting to a different part of my career because now I'm asked questions about my whole career.
No, 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 no. That is
No,
the
but
way
you know
you
what I'm
started
saying?
your
Like, I'm
career.
now asked to retrospect. Um, I I think I I think I never could have understood when I first heard that voice. I don't think I ever could have understood how small my idea of life was for myself. I think I thought I had a really big plan that was hard and worldly and I thought it was a big plan. I'm going to be a college professor and get a doctorate and it sounded very ambitious and very big to me. And the life that I've had instead, the life that I've allowed to happen and have have invited instead of the life I was pursuing
Mhm.
is so much bigger than I could have ever imagined for myself. I've impacted so many more people than I could have ever dreamed of impacting. I have and that without being famous. Without being famous, I have impacted so many more people than I could have ever dreamed of impacting. I have gotten to travel the world. I've met the Pope. Like I have had a big, big, big adventure because of this career, because of this choice. And I don't think I would have ever figured out how big my life could be without this career.
When you talk about fame, and I completely understand what you mean when you say that you didn't want to be famous in that sense, but do you believe that famous people, because you've been around so many, you've worked with, I mean, almost everyone. So, do you think that they lose themselves and it's hard for them to navigate the world while being famous?
I I think fame is very much like alcohol and that it affects people individually in the same way that alcohol affects people individually.
Uh-huh.
So there are people who can have a little fame and be just fine, take a little fame here and there. Um, I think I can do that. I can go on a red carpet. I can handle doing the opening of a movie. I can do all that. I just don't want you going through my garbage to figure out if I'm pregnant. I don't want you caring about my life. But I can handle the part of fame that's like I'm promoting a movie or I'm promoting a book or I can do that. Um, but there are people for whom fame, money, power is like a drug that they lose balance, they lose perspective, and their life becomes about that
And all.
fame, money, or power
Mm, mm.
instead of the thing that created the fame, the money, and the power. And so that's why I'm saying I wouldn't mind being famous for curing cancer because then that would have been what consumed my time. That would have been what I spent my life on. That would have been.
Yes.
And so to receive accolades for that and be known for that, nobody's going to care what I'm wearing or, like they're not going to care whether my hair is good or not. If I cured cancer, they're going to be like, ah, whatever, she can have bad hair. So,
It's allowed. Yes.
right.
Yeah.
But if your fame is based on having great hair, like if you're Jennifer Aniston and your career like started because of your great hair, then
Mhm.
you don't get to have a bad hair day.
Yes.
It's
Not
news.
allowed. Yeah, yes, of course, of course, of
Yeah.
course.
So I wouldn't want that amount of fame in my life. And people who enjoy that amount of fame in their life will do stuff to get more of it, just like with
Definitely.
alcohol and drugs.
Laura, I forgot to ask you because I wanted to ask you when we started the interview, like when you heard that voice, how long did it take you until you started making those changes?
I don't even know if I should say because it's going to make me sound a little crazy. That day,
Amazing.
I could not unhear it. I could not unhear it. I
And
I
you never questioned, eh,
I've questioned it. I still question it. I have no idea why I'm supposed to be an actor. I have no idea. All I know is that I am supposed to be an actor. And every time that I wonder, I get more information from the universe that nope, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
no,
So,
sure you're supposed to be doing that, but I mean, in the beginning, like Now you have no reason to question it, but in the beginning, like
I
when
do still, though. I still wonder why. What was all this about? What was it for? But I still just keep getting answers of like, it doesn't matter. You're just supposed to be an actor, period. That's the whole thing.
sometimes I don't. Maybe you don't even know the reason because you might have impacted people that you're not.
I
Uh,
do know that that's part of it. I
yes.
do know that there's a bunch of movies that exist because I exist that I didn't write, I didn't direct, I didn't produce. Well, some of them I produced, some of them I wrote, some of them I directed, but most I did not. I just was the person who made sure that it happened, or the person who inspired it, or the person who put these two people together and they got it done, or, but there are a lot of movies that exist because I exist. And there are a lot of relationships among filmmakers and writer directors and actors and all that exist because I have a phone. There's a lot of things that have changed. Like, if you erased me from film history, you might not notice me being gone, but you would notice some of the things I take with me. You would notice some of the, like, even just little
A
things.
lot of
Like,
things. A lot of things.
yeah, there's an outfit in Kill Bill that I am directly responsible for that I think is an iconic outfit that I when Daryl Hannah comes down the hallway whistling in that white suit with the, I just think that's an iconic outfit, and so I'm glad it's there because I helped put it there. But yeah, little contributions like that, do they affect the whole history of film? Probably not. But you would notice if I am out of film history, there are things I would take with me that you would notice being gone. So so yeah, I still don't know why I'm supposed to be an actor. All I know is that I'm supposed to be, and so I keep doing it.
Laura, so what does success mean to you?
Oh, very easy for me, and this is why I left LA. Very easy answer. Being happy.
Being happy.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that, and then they don't mean it at all because they don't make any choices about being happy ever, ever, ever. So I am being serious. I am saying that I'd rather be happy than rich. I'd rather be happy than famous. I'd rather be happy than powerful. I think that the true wealth, the true power, the true everything is happiness.
Which
And if you're
means
not
doing
here
things
for
you
that, you're
enjoy.
blowing it.
Yes, yes. Doing things you
Yeah.
enjoy, being with people you enjoy being around. Yes.
And doing things you think are, fun, that feed you. Um, yeah, I think, and I know a lot of this sounds very like Miss America, like making the world a better place. But I do. I really feel like that for me, making the world a better place is fun. And because of the way I choose to do it, like, I dance in this group, the Pussyfooters, and we dance in the parades at Carnival, at Mardi Gras. And we have a parade coming up for the holidays, and I just did one recently for Halloween. And I don't I don't know if there's anything I do that brings more joy to more people than when I am dancing in a parade. To see the faces of everybody as I'm dancing past them, to see them all smiling and laughing and enjoying me and the group that I'm in, um, that is fulfilling. That is fulfilling. That is worth all the money. That is worth all the fame. That is worth all the power, to just know that I am directly the cause of somebody smiling.
Yes, yes. And I've heard you also say that you moved to New Orleans because you wanted that community that you
I
weren't
wanna
in.
be happy. I wanna be with
Yes,
people who
yes,
value happiness.
yes. Yeah. So you fully
Yeah.
support your opinion on what makes you really happy. Um,
Well, yeah, it's something that I think, in a marriage, when people say, "What? How do you find for me, agreeing on what's fun is a helpful thing in a marriage. It's a helpful thing in a friendship, agreeing on what's fun, agreeing on what makes you happy, agreeing, and you don't have to agree on all of it. That would be weird. But having things that you both enjoy doing together, or that, whether it's you and your friends or you and your spouse or you and your parents or you and whoever, but having things that you enjoy doing together that are fun for both of you, that I think is like why we're here. Look,
Why?
I might leave the planet not knowing why I'm an actor, but I do think that I am here to live out loud. I am here to have uh, make good use of this body, make good use of this time, make good use of my privileges, make good use of, the whole shebang.
Laura, you seem so emotionally balanced, and I really wonder, were you always like that? Uh, was your mental health ever challenged?
That's an interesting question. Yes. Yes. I have come up against depression a couple of times in my life that were, moments where I guess the most accurate description would be tired, where I just got the kind of tired that sleeping wasn't gonna fix.
Hmm.
And I I actually just thought about this the other day of how you never know when you're being the person who interferes with a tired person. You know, we don't often know when the person we're talking to is that kind of tired.
No, we don't. Mm.
And and I do know that when I've been that kind of tired, I am grateful that I've allowed other people to positively affect me. And I have tried to positively affect others so that I don't make people tired and so that I am somebody they might consider if they needed to talk about being tired.
Laura, why do you think? Because I've asked so many of my guests the same question, and I always receive different answers. Why do you think there's so much information out there, and at the same time, mental health and so many other issues are still a taboo?
Because weakness. We see mental health issues as weakness instead of as like when you are dealing with your car, you do not think that putting gas in it means it got weak. But for some reason, when we refuel ourselves as humans, we see that as serving weakness. And I just don't believe that. I believe that every well needs to be refilled.
Of course,
And yeah,
of course.
and I don't see it as weak to refill your well.
So we're still pretending that we're so much accepting of all those silent disabilities.
Well, I think we're also still interested in the idea of that some people are better than other people. And I think as long as you're interested in that idea that there are people who are better than other people, then some people have to be worse, you
Hmm.
know? And so what if society decides you're one of the worst? Like maybe you don't look right, or you don't have the right education, or you don't have the right finances, or you don't have the right medical history, or you don't have whatever is your
Yeah.
shortcoming.
So in our need to fit, to to match the standards of society, we choose to stay silent sometimes. Yeah.
Well, I think also I think we all have to admit that we enjoy feeling better than other people, or we're not going to stop this. All of us have had a moment where we have felt better than somebody else. Like,
Yes.
I'm a
Yes.
better person, or I'm a stronger person, or I'm a smarter person, or I'm a prettier person, or I'm a whatever your thing is. I'm better than that person in this way. And when you do that, you're creating this idea that you could rank humans and that that's how this all works. And I I feel like the way this all works is more like a dream. You know how they say in a dream, everybody's really you?
Hmm.
I feel like it's more like that. Like all of us are really you. Or
You.
me. Yeah.
Yes.
And that if I'm having a negative experience of somebody, that might just be something that I'm dealing with about myself, that they might not actually be doing anything all that interesting, but that I am putting that on them because of what I'm going through. I think a great example of this would be, when you're driving, when you're a well person, when you're in a good space and you're driving, then, it's like, "Oh, yes, sure, come on in, person who was doing the rules wrong. You can get in, I'll let you in." And when you're in a not good space, everybody could be doing everything right, and you're like, "Get out of the way, you stupid," and it's like, what
Yes, yes,
changed?
yes,
Just
yeah,
you,
just
just
you.
you. Traffic is always traffic. People are always idiots in cars. That's not new. That happens every day you get in a car, there's somebody that's gonna be an idiot. So that's not new news. And some of the days you're like, "Okay, idiot, you can get in," and other days you're like, "You're an idiot!" And so that lets me know that it's mostly a me thing. It's
Yes,
mostly a me thing. There are people who are crappy, I'm not gonna lie, there are people who are crappy. There are people who are really great and should be noted for being really great
yes.
in a way that we're not. But, but I don't think that means that I get to be better or worse than other people, and I think by taking that out of the equation, you get rid of a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the whole.
Comparing.
I think we're hard on ourselves. I think we're really hard on ourselves, and then because we're hard on ourselves, we're hard on each other.
Mm, yes, exactly, exactly.
So,
Wow, that was really powerful. Laura, if you could leave one message behind besides that message that you just delivered, which was so strong, what would it be?
well, my whole message my T-shirt, is "Dare to fail." I am about daring to fail because everything amazing has always been outside my comfort zone. My comfort zone is professor at university writing books in the summertime. That's my comfort zone. So everything you've ever publicly seen me do was already outside my comfort zone because I was doing it publicly. And everything that was about, meeting fancy people and doing fancy things and all is outside of my comfort zone. But it's also my life. It's my real life. This is my real life, is running around with famous people doing cool stuff. So I think you have to dare to fail.
Yes, yes, you have to dare to fail. Laura, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Such a great time. Um,
I
I have
really appreciate your questions. These are very, they're questions that create a space for you to really think about what you care about.
I say that I created this podcast firstly for me because I wanted to get those answers. Um, and at the same time, I'm sure that many people, there's so many things that they want to ask. They want to hear other people's stories so they can learn things about themselves. Um, and especially for people in this industry and in arts in general, people that are not in this field, they have this, I think, false perception that they have the fame and the money and the power. And you know what's important is that I'm sure that wherever you get to be and as successful as anyone can be, they have a story behind, and it wasn't
Mhm.
everything wasn't easy. They failed a lot of times until they were able to make it to the point where they are right now. And I think all those.
Well, even if they succeeded the whole time, they still dared to fail.
Yes, 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 yes. And I think that's the most important thing that we have to understand, because nowadays through social media, we only get to see the shiny side of
The
things.
fix Yes, when it's all
Oh,
polished and all the
yes,
non-failure part.
yes. So you need to take that look behind what's real. And I mean, to see behind what's not real and see
Well,
the
it's also as an actor, the most interesting performances are when people dare to fail as actors, like as the character. Nobody wants to watch a character who gets it all right. You know, we are,
yes,
especially Americans, love to see a character who's a little bit of a bumbler, who's a
yes,
little bit of a mess so
yes,
that we can relate. And so, even as an actor, you want to try things. You want to, just
experiment like a child.
yes, yes, because why do children do that? Because they're alive on the planet fully. They haven't been talked out of being human.
Mhm. Yes, and they're not
We
afraid.
should all live like children.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Yes, where we allow things to affect us and we say ouch when somebody hurts us
Okay.
and we say I'm hungry when we need food and we just own our truth. We own where we're at and we try stuff like walking and talking and we fail at it.
Mm.
My name is Laura, except if you're under 3, it's Lawa Alala, So every person who ever
Yeah.
tries to say my name until they're 3 is going to fail to say Laura. Does that mean that they should not try to say my name because they can't say it right until they're around 3? I mean, it just, you have to fail. That's part of the human condition.
Yes. So, Laura, thank you so much. Thank you so, so much. It was truly a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. And to all of you, remember, ego was here, you're here, and that's enough.